Hey everybody, how's it going? Benny here with you again, going through Galatians once again with chapter 3. I hope you guys are reading this book as we go through this together. Hope you're reading it yourselves because we're just doing quick overviews with key verses that stick out to us. There's a lot to take out of this book. It's a great book. Jumping into chapter 3. Paul talks about the justification by faith, right? And we talked about this before in the earlier videos, the justification that we have through faith in Jesus Christ. He then talks about the law and how the law brings a curse, right? And there's some good and bad things about the curse, but ultimately, this is not what we should be basing our right standing with God on, right? So he talks about that pretty well. And man, Paul, you guys, he is just so smart. He said after that he heard the gospel directly from Jesus, he withdrew for 14 years. And, you know, what he did during that time was search the scriptures because he was a really devout Jew. He knew the word, but he didn't know who it was talking about. Obviously, it was talking about Jesus, right? And so for 14 years, he was just studying to see if everything lined up with Jesus. So he knows his stuff. And so this is why this is such a great book for us to go through and study. Because as he's writing this to correct the Galatians, he can write this as we read it to help us, to correct us, right? So he talks about the changeless promise. But before that, I want to highlight verse 14, two verses, but first off, verse 14, he writes, "The blessing of Abraham might come upon the Gentiles in Christ Jesus, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith," right? So we talked about this before. The promise of the Spirit through faith, right? So it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with what we do or what we follow, how strictly or how consistently, but through faith. That's all that Paul is standing on in his right standing with Jesus, with God, is through grace, through faith. All right? So he then talks about the purpose of the law, and then finally ending this chapter talking about the sons and heirs, which is you and me. So I'll go ahead and read it. This is key. "For you are all sons of God through faith in Christ Jesus. For as many of you as were baptized into Christ have put on Christ." What? That's awesome. "There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. And if you are Christ's, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise." Right? So that's key. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. We'll catch you next week.